last week when that image of him pulling down the mask and also with the eyebrows in the car and stuff like that, did you, for a moment, did you think to yourself, that looks like Luigi?
That wasn't a connection that I was making. And of course, Italians in New York are a dime a dozen. So just the jaw structure alone, the face, that wasn't a connection that I was really rushing to make. So I really just brushed that off when I saw it, to be honest.
Okay, well, this is anti-Italian discrimination, and we here at TYT, especially me, will not stand for it. But John, as an Italian yourself, how do you feel about this man calling you a dime a dozen?
Look, I don't normally take seriously these slights against Italians, although they are common. I make them myself. That one just felt so needless. Why? First of all, what are you talking about? Who's walking around Italy or around New York just like Italians everywhere? Like that's not my experience in New York. And also, you couldn't have phrased that any other way. Like literally imagine any other group being used other than Italians might be the funniest group to use in that example. And I'm not taking it that personally, but you couldn't have worded that any other way.
I mean, it is Fox, so I'm not surprised. Okay, it is what it is. But no, but in all seriousness, there are some critical updates to the case. That's the reason why we're doing this story. We're not just going to talk about, Italian discrimination. So over the past 24 hours, the assassin Mangione's attorney has been basically doing the rounds in the media. I don't know if this person is like a public defender who got assigned to his case. He's not doing Luigi any favors here. But nonetheless, he says that Luigi is challenging New York's extradition request and plans to plead not guilty because he hasn't seen any evidence, and that any evidence tying him to, the actual shooter. So let's take a look.
Listen, I haven't seen any evidence that says that he's the shooter, and I've seen zero evidence at this point, and so I'm not even aware of what any charges.
Are you standing by that statement that you've seen zero evidence tying Mangione to the murder?
That's correct. We had a brief hearing yesterday, and there was one document, an arrest warrant from the state of New York, which merely referenced a statute. We've seen no evidence. That's one of the many reasons why we're challenging the extradition at this point, so we can see some evidence and get a little more detailed information about the charges against Luigi.
What about the gun? What about the writings?
Well, as I indicated yesterday, I have not been made aware of any evidence that links the gun that was found on his person to the crime.
Well, now there's some evidence, okay, including evidence tying the shell casings that were found at the scene of the assassination to Luigi Mangione's gun. So that's kind of damning, Also,
he's not been made aware of that, so it doesn't count.
Look, to be fair, I mean, he's the lawyer, so it's not like he's going to do the media rounds and be like, yeah, there's a lot of evidence tying my client to the crime, but no, like he's not going to say that. But also, don't do the interviews. Like he's doing every interview. I mean, this guy, he's Cenk Uygur. Like he says yes to everything. Okay, it's okay to say no time to time. You don't have to be on every interview. But here he is. He's talking. If you're not going to be able to answer any of these questions because it's going to incriminate your client, then just don't do the interviews. Now, there's other evidence found as well. Fingerprints found at the scene of the assassination of UnitedHealthcare CEOs match those of suspect Luigi Mangione. Two law enforcement officials briefed on the matter told CNN on Wednesday. I mean, do we want to trust the law enforcement officials who spoke to the press? I mean, you decide. I'm going to go ahead and trust them, though, in this case. I don't think they have any interest in lying about it. It's unclear where exactly the fingerprints were discovered, though. But this is the first positive, that was the first positive forensic match tying Mangione directly to the crime scene. And then later they were able to tie the shell casings to the gun that was found on his person when he was discovered at a McDonald's in Pennsylvania. Now, the lawyer has yet to comment on that discovery. And as we know, Mangione's manifesto illustrated his frustration with America's healthcare system. The NYPD assessment based on Mangione's manifesto and social media post says that he appeared to view the targeted killing of the company's highest ranking representative as a symbolic takedown and a direct challenge to its alleged corruption and power games, asserting in his note that he is the first to face it with such brutal honesty. And along with that handwritten claim of responsibility, I mean, there's a lot of evidence here, right? Like the handwritten manifesto. Along with that, he was taken into custody, and investigators are now looking at what he had written in a spiral notebook. So apparently he had other, written material on him. It included to-do lists to facilitate a killing, as well as notes justifying those plans. In one notebook passage, Mangione wrote about the late Ted Krasinski, the so-called Unabomber who justified a deadly bombing campaign as an effort to protect against the onslaught of technology and exploitation. What did I say incorrectly? Because you guys are both laughing at me right now.
No, it was just the name. That's all. It's not important.
Did I say it incorrectly? I always mix up that guy's name.
I heard Krasinski, like the guy from The Office.
Sorry, I know I always do that.
Yeah, he's always been a little bit suspicious, I think, but
whatever. The Unabomber. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, the Unabomber. We all know who that guy is. Okay, so he specifically wrote, the assassin specifically wrote a note about going to the UnitedHealthcare investor conference in New York. In the notebook passage, Mangione concludes using a bomb against his intended victim could kill innocents, and shooting would be more targeted, musing what could be better than to kill the CEO at his own bean counting conference. A law enforcement official briefed on the matter told CNN. Man, this guy really, really hated corporate America. And I don't know what murdering someone in cold blood accomplishes. I get that there are a lot of people online, again, we've talked about this, who are celebrating it, but I really don't think violence and an assassination is the answer. This is doing nothing to reform our healthcare system. And in fact, the only thing that people are focusing on is, how bad are these people who are celebrating, the assassination of a CEO? That's what everyone's focusing on, rather than focusing on the very real problem that we are facing in this country, which is a broken healthcare system. But nonetheless, John, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, look, I think there's a couple different things coming out of it in terms of conversation. I do think that the media strike back against the people posting about it could radicalize people to sort of center reform for healthcare even more in their politics potentially. And look, by the way, I'm not posting memes and stuff like that. Like that goes beyond what I'm interested in doing. I'm not trying to scold anybody. It's not to my taste necessarily, but I understand people's frustration, especially those who either themselves have been through the system and been abused by it, or the virtually everyone in America who at the very least knows someone who has. So I understand the rage. I also think it's potentially a moment for some in media to once again start talking about healthcare and the lingering, issues in it. People are really dissatisfied with the current system. Support for single-payer healthcare is higher than it's been in many, many years. I think that particularly at this time, that's very important for what I think, people on our side of the aisle should be focusing on themselves over the next couple of years leading into the midterms. And so, yeah, I agree. Don't kill people is generally my message that I give to everyone. I would also say to the lawyer, it looks like he did it. Like it looks a little bit bad. I'm not saying that stuff couldn't have been forged or whatever, but that's the only out you have at this point. It's just about as bad as I once saw a trial proceeding where a guy's internet search history was being read out with timestamps. He was alleged to have murdered someone, and it was like 9:34. How do you get rid of a body? 10:11. The body's starting to stink. And it's like I think he did it at that point. That's going to be hard to explain away. And so, it's going to bother a lot of people, and who knows what'll end up happening with the jury or whatever in this, but it definitely seems like he's the guy that did it.
I mean, there's so much hatred toward our healthcare system. Can you imagine him standing trial and the jury acquits him?
It's possible. There's a lot of defense mechanisms against that in the system, but it is not impossible.
That would be crazy. I'm so curious to see how this all plays out. But we're gonna wait and see. And in the meantime, we'll update you as we learn more about this case and the evidence that's being compiled, and whether or not he's, maybe gonna somehow miraculously win the extradition denial that he's hoping for. So we'll see.
Hey, thanks for watching the video. We really appreciate it, guys. And we appreciate it if you become members, because that allows us to be independent, honest, progressive, all the things that you don't get from corporate media. And all of that is because of you guys. Hit the join button below and become one of us. Become a young Turk.